Hey guys, welcome back to more live action for CALLOUS Invitational 7 Upper Bracket. These guys arguably were not expected with their round 1 pairings to be in the upper bracket, but they both pulled off, air quotes, upsets. Pkleech taking out last year's runner-up, Soulwind. Obviously, Soulwind being the runner-up, coming off a really good year last year, and was trying to carry that momentum forward. And then Robjr defeating, I believe 2-0 defeating the CI3 champion, the first man to ever win the tour from the winner's bracket, Triangles. So those were two outcomes, at least on paper or according to our predictions, were supposed to go the other way. But Rob and Leech both looked good in round 1. Have earned their place in the winner's bracket, and one of these guys is going to have a nice cozy week off with a bye next week. You guys, I would tell you right now, and this is live, so who knows, I don't know how long it'll take or whatever, but I would advise you guys right now to grab a drink, probably some food so you don't starve to death, and allot yourself some time. Leech notoriously is one of the slowest live players, and his matches take the longest. And furthermore, he also takes way too much time in between games, which is a little pet peeve that drives me crazy. But we very well may be waiting 5, 10, however many minutes in between games. And depending on how bored I get, you might get some singing, you might get some philosophy. We'll see how that all goes. In the meantime, so we led with tar on tar, usually in that matchup, unless one of them's like CB or something. They tend to both switch, but Rob stayed in, Leech did not, and Rob opted to sub up on the switch. He then got a couple focus punches off on the 4E for Leech. It managed to get us spiked down and then got out of the way so it doesn't get killed. And now we have a Milo, so pretty vintage Leech stuff right here. Some kind of 4E TSS stally team. And Rob hasn't really shown us much of anything. Sub-focus punch tar could be fully physical, could be something along the lines of a VIL tar, but could also be a mixed set. It could also have, I mean, it's certainly not going to have flamethrower, right, because it would have done that against the 4E, but it could be like a Tyrannoboa with Thunderbolt Crunch. It could be Bolt Beam Focus Punch. Probably with the way that this is played, it's probably strictly physical, but Sub-Focus Punch does not inherently mean that it's a physical set. So, there is the Thunder Wave on Bliss revealed for the first time. I wouldn't go so far as to say auto-include, but Bliss is very, very common and makes a lot of sense on 4E squads. So maybe not quite auto-include, but like a baby step behind it. She's on the vast, vast majority of 4E teams, as she should be. The T-Tower, now that we know that 4E is there, is probably Pursuit Tower, as you guys know. 4E is never going to spin without it. Now, granted, these days, some people bring funky stuff like 4E Claydol or whatever to actually be able to rapid spin without having to rely on 4E. But more common, and an older strategy, and the more common strategy, is to pair the 4E with some variant of Crunch Pursuit Tower. Common moves that fill that out, Flamethrower, Roar, Ice Beam, HP Grasp, whatever you need it to have. But Crunch Pursuit, fully special tar, is generally the pairing with 4E. So, Bliss on Bliss in what has already been a pretty slow game. Like I said, Leech, a fairly deliberate player, does tend to take his time. Now, granted, Rob has also used some timer up to this point, so like I said, I think very likely, especially if we go to a third game, that we might be here for a hot minute and get to know each other a little better. I think this will probably last longer than a lot of dates that some of these listeners have had. And there is CM. T-Tar coming into a spike. And the +1 bolt there, not bad, about a third. T-Tar gaining lefties, as we know. Saw that earlier when he subbed up and started gaining them back. Focus punch, and Leech is not able to stay in, and he's severely punished there. He gets nailed with a critical hit. He better hope now that the T-Tar is not faster than Milotic, which, based on lefties, it looks like it's not. It looks like Milo is faster here, but it's still awkward. I mean, you could recover here only to eat another focus punch. And he does go for the recover anyway. And Rob does not want to play that game, the 50-50 surf, focus punch, mind game stuff. Just going to go to a Starmie here, which not only threatens the Milotic with possibly something like Thunderbolt, but also could just go for Rapid Spin potentially here if there's no Ghost. 4E teams do sometimes have a Ghost. They can be difficult to fit. We could see from Leech's currently revealed 4 that he obviously needs a Rock Resist somewhere. You would think, having shown Milotic, that it wouldn't be Swampert, but that is that old school, there is the old school undisputed double water team that Eden really likes. Undisputed made it originally, but Eden's used it a lot since then, where it in fact would still have Swampert in the back. Heavy blows for both here, Big Surf and Big Crunch respectively. It's got to be T-Tar who gets out of the way though. It's not going to survive another Surf here. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to just stay in and die. The only reason you would stay in and crunch again is if you think that Starmie is going to anticipate the Tar switching and go for a cover. And alternatively, you could click Pursue. But that, I think, is terrible. I think you either switch, which is probably just the play, you just go to Bliss, or if you have the soul read on your opponent, if you're confident that Rob is going to click Recover here, you could stay in and click Crunch, which is huge. And it is tempting for Rob to go for a cover here. If he were to just surf into the Blissey, it would leave his Starmie at just 9%, staring down a poke that he knows has Thunderbolt. That's really not that great. So this is actually kind of a tricky position for Rob as well. It's a hard play to make from Leech's seat to just click Crunch here, but I really can see some merit to it. And it looks like that's what he did. I don't fault Leech for that play. I mean, you know, hindsight 2020, you stare at it now and go, oh, you donkey, you had your 50% T-Tar, you didn't need to give it up there, it still had plenty of use, why did you sacrifice it, you had such a safe switch in Blissey. From the outside looking in, you know, if it were a lower ladder player, that might be what you see, but there really was a valid, justifiable reason there for Leech to stay in. I don't hate the crunch, I really don't. It didn't work, hindsight 2020, but I do understand what he was going for. So that Thunderbolt is a correct play for Leech. He got the previous 50-50 situation with the Starmie and the T-Tar wrong, but he gets this one right. Disrupting Focus Punch with T-Bolt. 2 unrevealeds in the back per player, so still some fill in the blank, but both teams need to reveal Rock Resist at some point, so our buddy Swampert's got to be somewhere, right? And we've got yet another pause. Like I said, it's a slower, more deliberate match. Rock Slide coming down, anticipating being attacked, trying to disrupt Focus Punch. And that is correct. And now Blissey in danger of dying to a follow-up Rock Slide, depending on the roll. I don't know that I would stay here if I'm Leech. If he's got Swampert, I'm switching to it, even though Focus Punch might come down. Wow, that is poor luck for Leech. That is the second time that a Focus Punch has immediately critically hit a bulky water. It critically hit the Milo first, and now the Swampert as well. They both come into crit Focus Punches. T-Tar holding both Leftovers and Scope Lens in this game. So this is the well-known double water team. Like I said, this was created by Undisputed, rest in peace, originally. And Eden has subsequently been probably the biggest proponent of it and has used it quite a bit, but certainly not the only person. And they pause again. Zapdos comes into an EQ, so more good news for Rob. Certainly with the help of those crits. Let's not downplay the fact that they have certainly mattered. But yeah, certainly with the help of the crits, and the fact that he killed the T-Tar, I think pretty clearly Rob Jr. is ahead in this game 1. Not over, but definitely ahead. And we'll see. We'll see if Leech can make the comeback. The thing with teams like this, like the team that Leech is running, and I'm not saying it's a bad team. I don't think it's a bad team, but by nature, with these like very stally defensive teams, you kind of either lock the other guy down and get into a rhythm, get into a methodical kind of gameplay, or you don't. They don't have the comeback potential that other kind of teams have that can just DD sweep or can just CM sweep or whatever. You just set up Robjr at the end and you kill 3 things. You just DD twice with Mence or Tar at the end and you just sweep. This team does not have that kind of potential. It kind of has to grind things out, kill things a little bit more slowly. It doesn't really have a dedicated set up and kill you kind of sweeper. So it makes it tough when you're behind like this, which he clearly is. It makes it harder to come back. If he does come back, we're going to be here for a hot minute. But you can see just by the time to turn ratio here, we've been live narrating for, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe. And we're just on turn 21, 22. It feels, I mean, I've narrated both ways. We've done the whole clicker fest thing where I watch it and I feel like I don't even see the timer indicator at all throughout the entire set. And then you get ones like this where not quite linear curve level of down to 10 seconds with the timer, but yeah, I mean, Leech down to 30. And Rob is not in clicker mode either. He's exhausted half his timer. They're both thinking it through. Last mon revealed is Salamence, immediately Rock Slid. Intimidate keeps the Mence alive there, but that still did a lot. 76% from the stab Rock Slide there. In what is a strictly physical tar, it seems. Haven't actually seen the last move, right? But yeah, it's just going to be probably HP Bug there. It could be Earthquake, but then you do Dick All to Claydol. So it's probably just last move HP Bug, which doesn't seem like it's something that would be clicked in this particular matchup. Doesn't seem overly relevant in this matchup. There's Brick Break on Zap. Was hoping that Tar would stay in there, but no such luck. Yeah, I think Leech is really getting smacked around this game. Just checking the health of everything. Fori at just a third. Milo did get a recover off, so it's a little bit healthier, but Milo isn't going to win, and it's not fully healthy. Swampert suffering from that critical hit, down just 28%. And then as we see with the Mence, we saw just a moment ago, Rob made the right prediction, knew that something aerial was going to come in. Indeed, clicked with the Mence, got him with Rock Slide, and significant chip on that as well. T-Tar coming in. We have this matchup again. It's CM Bliss against Physical Tar. Mind games begin. Is it Rock Slide? Is it Focus Punch? Very dangerous for both, but more so for Leech. Certainly if he tries to go to Swampert on a Rock Slide and gets Focus Punch, we've got a problem. And vice versa. If he stays in, tries to attack to disrupt Focus Punch, only to be hit with Rock Slide, that isn't so good either. And Rob does go straight for the Rock Slide, an awkward damage roll there, where Milo may or may not live another. But Milo is faster here, so we have this dynamic again of, are we recovering, are we focus punching? Probably Rob is just going to switch here, but it can be tempting to focus punch once and make Leech think about it on the next turn. Because Leech is very likely just going to click recover here, and he should click recover here. But it's very tempting from Rob's end to make him think about it, to focus punch a time or two and make every single individual one of these decisions really feel strenuous for Leech. But I think for Leech it is just recover one way or another, and then Rob's going to do what he's going to do, but I think it is recover here from Leech's end. And here is the focus punch. I like it from both players. I think the recover was the play, and the focus punch, like I said, make them think about it. And it's recover again, so Leech does manage to get out of danger temporarily, and the Milo is healthy again at 90. Now, we know that the Zapdos is both Thunderbolt and HP Grass, so neither of the waters want anything to do with this. But it is also walled entirely, at least right now it seems. It could just be Swampert Dugtrio as the last two, which would create a further problem for Leech if the Blissey were to ever go down. Well, that isn't Swampert or Dugtrio. We've got a Marowak in the back for Rob Jr. Oh man, this is the kind of matchup where Marowak shines against very passive things like what Leech has. it's tough because nothing on Leech's team really one-hit KOs the Marowak, and it hits like a truck. Maybe in Torrent range, Surfer Hydro Pump could get him here, but like most of the time that he never gets a chance, right? Because he gets outsped and just gets insta KO'd regardless. Because if you're in Torrent range, you're in Death range, so it isn't actually applicable unless Marowak switches in while the Swampert stays in, which I would say is ill-advised. So there's a kill for Marowak, and I believe that is the first Marowak appearance of the tournament thus far. Rob's got a pretty cool team around it. He's got, I believe, T-Wave on both. Hasn't shown it, but I'm assuming T-Wave on both Blissey and Starmie. This says that Blissey's poison. I'm going to assume that that's a visual glitch, and Toxic did in fact get natural cured away. But if it's Serene Grace Bliss, then funky monkey. Oh, silly me. She was the active poke. That's why it said that. No one said I was smart. But yeah, natural cure. Toxic is gone. Anyhow, we've got a 6-4 situation. Still a hidden poke in the back. Marowak, even though it does in fact resist rock, is not a proper rock resist. So it is probably just Swampert in the back for Rob. And I don't know if that's going to overly come into play in this battle, but that would be my guess as to what we're dealing with here. Leech takes a shot with Beam on the switch. Might as well try to freeze something. Focus Punch again, and Milo comes in. 45%, leaving it at 45%. Little awkward. Milo would not survive a Focus Punch plus the Sand here, but that should never matter because it's either going to recover a Surf, and in either case takes it out of Focus Punch range. And it is just recover again as Zapdos reappears. So we've slowed down to the grindier part of the battle, but probably Rob is going to get this one. It seems hard for Leech to win. He does land a Toxic on Zapdos to put something of a clock on it, and Rob is going to stay into T-Bolt there to not allow the Milotic to get a free recover off. Almost certainly going to BP out this turn. And it is the T-Tar reappearing again, and it's not a soft boil. Leech is playing aggressively. He's fishing for crits, fishing for freezes, doing what he's got to do to try to get back in this game. He never wants to let the Marowak in for free. He wants to try to freeze something if it comes in. He can't just sit back and recover. He knows that he'll lose, so Leech seems to understand the way out of this game and know that he needs luck to get there. And seemingly he's going to fodder off Fori here. It comes into Rock Slide, and the second one does not miss. Had he gotten a miss there, maybe Leech could have KO'd him with Earthquake or HP Bug. So again, Leech giving himself opportunities, fishing for luck, but didn't come down. And Rob is keeping the pressure on. Leech is playing it correctly. It just isn't going his way. He got behind early in the game in what is seemingly not a good matchup to begin with, and Rob is not giving him much breathing room here. By and large, Rob is keeping his foot on the gas. He's not being suicidal about it. He's not just like tossing his T-Tower on this turn by clicking Focus Punch and getting surfed down, for example. But by and large, Rob is not giving Leech a lot of room to breathe. And there is recover yet again. Leech is doing everything he can to hang on. Milo, ever resilient, has taken many hits and gotten its own attacks off and is still very healthy to show for it, but Bliss not so hot right now. Salaman's really not so hot right now, much lower. And all 6 pokes remain standing and largely healthy for Rob, including an unrevealed in the back that I believe is going to be Swampert, but probably not the most relevant poke in this matchup. Marowak again, yeah, you can't go wrong. Marowak will outspeed Bliss and click double edge here, and what can you do if you're Leech? Absolutely nothing wants to come into that. Earthquake's so bad. Why would you EQ there, Rob Jr.? You fucking Scrubzilla. You obviously double edge there. You always double edge there. I definitely don't like the EQ. I don't see the point. Of course you double edge there. Blissey was at what? At 45? Of course that would kill her. That was an objective misplay for Rob. That one's not subjective. That's not me seeing the game differently than he does. Earthquake there was wrong. It was incorrect. That is absolutely a double-edged turn, and we already know that he has double edge. That was just flat out a mistake for Rob. And it would have killed the Ments, and it would have killed the Bliss. The only reason that you could try to get there on Earthquake is because it would do a little bit more to Milo, but it's absolutely incorrect. You absolutely double-edged there. So, Rob, you suck, and you deserve to lose. And he's not going to lose, but that was a misplay. We're down to, I mean, this is a stomp. This could be a 6-0 if Rob decides to not let the Zapdos go. Down to just Milo and Blissey against the full 6. The last poke was not Swampert, which kind of feel like it should be. Rob's team seems really, really weak to like DD Ments or DD Tar and things like that. He doesn't have anything even really close to a bulky water, and he could definitely get shoved out of the way pretty quickly and swept by one of those big, mean physical sweepers. But just the nature of the beast. Mons is very matchup heavy. Rob definitely has the advantage in this matchup. Leech does not have the tools that he needs to punish the weaknesses in Rob's team. I definitely like it better had the Jirachi, Benny, Swampert on the squad. I'm on board with that modification. As it stands, it's okay, but it's vulnerable. But this might have been a pick very deliberately into Leech and into the style of Leech. It certainly feels that way. These are all Pokemon. The Subtar is something that I love into Leech. Marowak is something that I love into Leech. This might be a sub-CM Thunder and Ice Punch Jirachi, which if so, again, I love into Leech. This very much feels like a counter team kind of style, and Rob got the result that he wanted. Leech walked right into it. Leech just brought generic bread and butter, exactly what you would stereotypically envision Leech bringing. And Rob brought things that punish the crap out of what Leech likes to bring. So maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe it's just some RNG. They both just picked a team they liked, and here we are. But it certainly feels like superior prep for Rob, specifically targeting the things that Leech heavily leans towards. And Leech either not giving Rob credit for the ability to do that, or Leech just being unable or unwilling to adapt his style. Because imagine if in this game 1, Leech had just brought, Magneton physical offense or whatever. I think it is completely different. I think in that circumstance, Leech probably rolls against this team and takes game 1 fairly easily. But yeah, when you have a player like Leech who has very clear preferences, this is one of the things that can happen. I've always felt that Leech is exploitable in the builder. Last year, when I was heavily building for Jabba as of the maybe 3rd round or so, certainly including against in the matchup against Leech in round 5 or 6, I don't remember which round it was, but I certainly, when I was building for that matchup, certainly felt like Leech had some pretty clear tendencies and was certainly a player that you could counter and exploit in the builder. I thought that the 3 teams, we only got to see 2 of them, but I thought that the 3 teams that I had built for Jabba made a lot of sense against Leech, and indeed, Jabba did win that match 2-0, and it felt like we had an advantage in both matchups. So, I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm giving Rob and whoever it is he's prepping with too much credit, but it certainly felt like Rob out-prepped Leech in that previous game, and very much walked into a matchup where if Leech brings his usual stuff, it wasn't going to go well. And indeed, it did not. That was a 6-0. So, Rob 1 win away with this or a potential 3rd game from having a bye, whereas Pkleech is going to need 2 in a row. The players remain in the same positions. Leech is on the bottom, Rob Jr. is on the top, and we have a Meta and a Suicune, respectively, as we have an immediate use of timer from both players on turn 1. Usually Suicune just flat out has the advantage in this matchup, but yeah, maybe it's CV meta, maybe he's worried about Boom. Usually Kuhn just stays in and clicks Calm Mind here, but... Well, Leech has locked, but Rob not so sure. Lead Kuhn is usually one of two extremes. It's either usually like CM 3 attacks or CM sub 2 attacks on like a really, really aggressive build on a very offensive team, or it is leading CM Roar Rest Surf on a very, very stally team, usually like Skarm, Doug kind of stuff. But the fact that he's going to substitute on turn 1 and then get out of the way, which is weird, this indicates a very offensive team, I think, from Rob. And Leech has also seemingly switched over to an offensive team. Meta plus Lax, generally physical offense and or some kind of balance. Like I said, it was weird that the Kuhn got out of the way of the Lax even with the sub, but he didn't want him to start cursing up, it seems. He did switch Gengar into Body Slam, which blanks. We're now going to see a Will-O-Wisp, which wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world in a natural cure poke, but that's also going to miss, so... The only damage thus far of this game is the self-inflicted Suicune damage via its own substitute. And they stare each other down. Both got to be a little nervous here, but I think Gengar should be more nervous. The Psychic here is pretty big, and nothing that the Gengar is going to do, whether it's Fire Punch, Ice Punch, whatever, is really going to one-hit KO the Celebi, even with a crit. Regice Philbin, my man! Making an appearance. Hasn't been enough Regice love so far in CI7, but we are only in round 2, so we might see a little more of that. Meta comes in and gets instantly T-Waved. That's got to be good for Raw, but that was a good turn for Leech, going with an unexpected Toxic through the Para and the imperfect accuracy and connecting with Doll. And I recognize this team now from Rob. This is the... I keep confusing whether it's Johnny G or Jirachi, but this team was popularized last year. It is a boom spam squad. Now, granted, it usually has Skarm on it, and maybe it still does, but I believe that it often leads with Skarm. But one way or another, this is the boom spam team popularized last year that has subsequently been used by many people in many tournaments. It is not a refresh doll. It is a boom doll. And Leech probably recognizes that, and I think we can expect him to at least reasonably try to play around that. So Pert staring down the doll. Scary to boom into something that often carries Protect, so I think I just switch out if I'm Rob rather than pulling the trigger here. I'd probably just go back to Suicune if I'm him, but it's tempting to boom. Bulky Waters are very much the kind of target that you want, but it's really scary into something that could just be faster than you and click an attack. I mean, the lefties indicate that it's not faster, but if you do something other than boom, he can just kill you, and if you boom, he can protect. Yeah, I think I like the switch personally. And Leech there, I think that was a good play all the way around. I think that covers boom. Had Rob gone for that. And also this team, like I said, the stereotypical version of this team, maybe Rob changed it a little bit, maybe he didn't, but this team traditionally has Skarmory on it, and Skarmory is something that loves to switch into Swampert because it's really not overly threatened, so it makes sense there that Rob might have gone for Skarmory on that turn, and it would have looked fantastic. It would have made Leech look very smart to basically, in the dark, catch the Skarmory there with the Magneton. And Claydol's never staying in there to click EQ. It's just not worth it. So even though it's kind of on paper weird to switch Magneton into something that has stab EQ, Claydol never clicks EQ there. You just have to think the situation through. There's no chance Claydol stays in and does all of 25% to Swampert and then eats a Surf. It just doesn't make sense. So I like the play for Leech. I like the logic behind it. He doesn't get either outcome that he would have liked, which is to get boomed on or to catch the Skarm. But I like the play. This is a little nerve-wracking for both of them. I mean, you always, anytime you get Garin, you want to click free Will-O-Wisp, but he doesn't want to get hit with something like Thunder Wave here. And that was good for Leech to make that switch. Very tempting there, if you're Leech, to click Thunder Wave, which looks kind of free, right? Because everything that's been shown gets hit by it, other than the doll, which is just poison, and just comes in and takes poison damage, and then you can just switch out. It's very tempting to click wave there, but a heads-up play there for sure to know that there's a Dugtrio on this team, which there always is, because again, it's boom spam. And traditionally, the last poke is Skarm. We'll see if Rob changed that or not, but now that he knows there's a Magneton on the other side, the dynamic gets a little funky. But then again, now that the Magneton player knows that there's a Dugtrio on the other side, which he clearly knew before it was shown, because he recognizes the team, and Leech has played really well. I really want to compliment Leech in this game. Multiple heads-up plays that I think are better than the plays that most competitive players would make. Clearly recognizes the teams, clearly head in the game, head in the moment. I really like a lot of the decisions that Leech has made in this game. But yeah, I think they both know what they're up against by and large. Last poke for Leech, probably just Salamence. Could be T-Tower, but I don't think the whole damn team is grounded, and it's pretty vulnerable to fighters as it stands, even if it were a fast Celebi with Psychic for like Loom and Hera or whatever. I think it's just Mence in the back for Leech. That's what makes sense to me. And then, like I said, traditionally, it's last poke Skarm on this squad for Rob, but TBD. Will-O-Wisp and a Blink on a poke that's already paralyzed. This actually makes meta a fairly reasonable check to Gengar now. The big threat typically is just Will-O-Wisp, but now that that can't happen, the meta actually can switch into the Gengar relatively safely, assuming that the other three moves are Thunderbolt, Ice Punch, and Boom. Meta super duper doesn't care about two of those, and even the Thunderbolts are okay, but they don't do a ton. And interestingly, and there's been so much of it this round, I don't know why this is the flavor of the month thing, but T-Tower usage in this round, it feels like it's at an all-time low, man. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I feel like we have had so many sandless games in this round in particular, and I'm not clear why. I don't know if it's like I'm in the lower bracket and after round one already kind of thing, and hey, why bring boring and standard? I want to have some fun and bring some stuff. I'm already in the lower bracket. Let me try some shit. I don't know if it's that kind of thing or if it's a coincidence or what, but T-Tower usage feels way too low in this round. I mean, regardless of what the Skarmory fanboys want to tell you, T-Tower is and always has been the best and most important poke in this tier. Skarm's real good, but it is not, never has been, and never will be better than Tyranitar. It's the best and most important poke in the tier, and it's not being used enough as far as competitive gameplay and trying to win, which is what this tournament is concerned. Here comes Mag. Fair enough. Crit mildly relevant there, so if it doesn't crit, then it obviously wouldn't kill, but he would just follow up with Dugtrio to get the kill. The reason why it is mildly relevant, however, is that it would force Rob to do the Dugtrio thing, and then Leech would be able to switch into a Dugtrio that is stuck on Earthquake and get tempo from doing so. So that would be a free opportunity for Leech to get the Mence in or get the Celebi in. But now Rob does not have to go to Dugtrio, and that is going to make it so Leech does not get any tempo advantage out of this, and we have more of an even game. So not the most devastating crit we've ever seen in CALLOUS Invitational, but mattered more than zero. So that leaves us in a 5-5, and I still think we're looking at a Mence and a Skarm in the back, and Leech better hope that it's not Skarm in the back, because his only Skarm answer that he was very much relying on in the Magneton, no longer with us. So if it is Skarm in the back, physical meta's going to have a hard time getting through. Mence is gonna, if it is Mence, gonna have a hard time getting through. DD Mence. Lax is gonna have a hard time getting through. Skarm is a real nightmare now, if that is the last poke. And Rob is just gonna click Boom here. Interesting. Not sure what the intended target was, but the target that he found is in fact the Swampert. Maybe he was just gonna blow on the Lax, but this is interesting, depending now on the EVs for both, if it's Jolly or Adamant Doug, and I think it's Jolly, and then how defensive the Swampert is, and if it has Protect. It's not actually guaranteed that the Dugtrio can eat the Swampert here, but he's going to go to it. I mean, certainly if the Swampert doesn't have Protect, which it seemingly does not. Alright, simple enough, we've got a trade. 4-4 in this game 2. You guys saw it live as I did. Rob convincingly won the first game, so if he manages to get this one, we are not going to a game 3. And Rob is on vacation next week while the people in the lower bracket fight it out. But if Leech takes this down, we're going to a third game. Probably 10 to 15 minutes after this game ends, knowing Leech. It's locked on Earthquake, so he's obviously never going to go to meta here. Could go to Lax, but I wouldn't. Doesn't seem great. So I think he's debating between the Celebi and the Last Poke. And I hope he isn't not going to the Last Poke, which I think is meant, you know, just to hide it. Just for the, oh, I can't reveal what this is. I can't show my opponent. That's kind of like a psychological tendency that too many people in this community have, where they get too cute. They get too clever trying to hide stuff. Oh, I can't show him. Oh, it's got to be a surprise. Rob probably already knows, and whether he does or doesn't, he probably does, but whether he does or doesn't, you just have to make the right play. You just have to make the optimal play. If it makes sense to go to that Mon there, then you go to that Mon there. You don't hide it for the sake of hiding it, but I feel like too many people, especially in Mushi League and, you know, lower level play, tend to err on the side of trying to get sneaky, trying to get cute, and hiding Mons. But anyhow, I mean, it might not even be Mence. We'll see soon enough. I think it is, but we'll see. Either way, Giga Drain going to clip Coon on the way in for 41, leaving it awkwardly at 40. So a damage roll situation here. And Giga Drain PP, precious and limited. Only 8 to begin with. Even less if it does it into a pressure Pokemon like Suicune. Rob Jr. wisely going to switch it up, go to Regice, which takes very little from Giga Drain. And now Meta is back, resisting the Stab Ice Beam. Meta's got to be careful as well. Not only is it paralyzed, but we know there's a Dugtrio on the other side. And Suicune comes into that, hoping there would be a Meteor Mash. Interesting. Maybe Doug was trying to catch B, but Doug is going to catch Lax, and he's going to get an immediate critical hit, which super duper matters. If this is Cursed Rest Lax, it's now going to be very, very difficult for Rest to get off. And Rob apparently really likes Jirachi, either in general or maybe just against Leech. But Leech doing his best Water Mess impression, complaining to his opponent about the hacks. Like, what are you looking for, dude? You want Rob to be like, oh man, I'm sorry I crit you. I wish I hadn't crit you. I kind of would prefer to either not get the lock, or even better, maybe I kind of prefer that you get lucky and that I don't win the match. I'm sorry about that, man. I'm not playing for luck. I'm not hoping that good things happen. My bad, dude. Don't complain to your opponent. It's a bad look. It's always a bad look. Luck is part of the game. They can't control it. Don't be a whiny beta bitch boy. Complain to your friends privately after if you must. Don't complain in the battle. That being said, anybody's game, 3-3. Rachi showed us Psychic. Okay, that's close enough to Men's. It's his brother. Here comes Gyra. Brother from another mother. Looks decent here. I mean, Regice presumably has Thunderbolt, and that is an awkward damage roll, but Lefties is going to make it less awkward. Meta in. T-Bolt does a smidge more than the Stab Ice Beam before. Gyra looks pretty good. I mean, we don't know the Rachi set. If it's Psychic Thunderbolt, then that would obviously be good against the Gyra, but if it's a non-Thunderbolt Rachi, that Gyra is pretty dangerous. Leech down to just 30 seconds. Here comes Suicune. And through the imperfect accuracy and the para possibility, a mash connects. That puts the Coon in range of lethal if it is a non-rest Coon, which with sub, unless you're Water Mess, those moves don't go together. So it is a non-rest Coon. And here comes the Gyra switch. Surf. 19%. Fair enough. If Leech gets a DD off, which, as we see, he does. Ooh, he gets roared out, though. Ooh, sub surf roar. Unexpected. I think that Leech, like myself, was expecting it to be sub surf CM ice beam. But no, he throws him a little curveball there. He's got roar on his sub coon. I liked the DD from Leech. It makes plenty of sense. That's what I would have done as well, but a little trickery up in here. Throwing him a little curveball. Meta coming in to Ice Beam yet again. The meta, even though it's been paralyzed for pretty much the whole damn battle, has still gotten quite a bit of bang for his buck here. And he puts the coon once again into the red with another Meteor Mash through the para and through the imperfect accuracy. Another pause, but largely Leech taking the time rather than Rob, which makes sense since he's the one who absolutely cannot lose this game. Not that the whole, oh, I've got a game to give mentality is a winning one, but it is different when you're the one who has the back against the wall. Critical hit there benefiting Leech, or benefiting Rob rather, but then he does manage to kill Suicune. And that leaves us in a 2-3. We know Regice has Thunderbolt, so in comes Meta yet again. Feel like Meta has not gotten very many full powers or misses. You EQ or do you mash here? It's very interesting. Obviously you want to mash the Regice. Obviously you want to EQ the Jirachi. He's going to stay in and just hope that mash doesn't connect, but once again, through para and accuracy, Meta loves Leech. This is all the more reason why you shouldn't complain, because Leech himself is catching some breaks as well. If he gets any amount of misses or full paras at any point during this loop, the game might look different, but he's catching the breaks that he needs to catch. If it's a non-sub Rachi, could also just be Fire Punch. But Meta, if it can here, maybe should just boom and then follow up with Gyarados, which outspeeds the Rachi, probably, maybe. And then just clicks Earthquake. That might be one line to try to finish this game. It's hard because you don't know what the Rachi has. You've only seen Psychic. Could be CM3 attacks. Could be sub. Could be a bulky set with Wish. I mean, the safe play is just to Earthquake, but we'll never know because he is just Fire Punch down immediately. Alright, Rachi against both Celebi and Gyarados. If the Celebi has Leech Seed, which it does, this would be a wonderful time to put that on the Jirachi. But Leech is really thinking about it. And he goes to Gyarados here. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I guess if he just 2-hit KOs him with Earthquake now, as long as he doesn't get crit. No, but he doesn't survive the Psychic. Man, I would have gone to Celebi first and gotten the Leech Seed down. And how bad would Leech feel if he had just gotten crit there and killed? He still might. One more chance for a crit. For the match, for the robbery. Leech is going to hang on just barely. He gets burned, too. So when I say just barely, I mean just barely. But Leech does force a Game 3. I don't know that I agree with the way that late game was played. I think I would have just immediately Leech Seeded it, but yeah, Leech is going to barely hang on, but Rob had his chances there. He had 2 opportunities to just crit and win, or maybe if the burn had come a turn earlier, so that had to be a scary one for Leech. As we wait for Game 3, and Leech is trying to tell me that he needs time. You don't need time. Get in there, man up, and fight! As I take a sip of my drink. It's been a close set. I mean, maybe not so much game one, but as far as how well they're playing, it has been a close set. I think Leech did a lot of things right in the first game, and the matchup was just really bad. And this game clearly could have gone either way, but I think as far as the level that they're both playing at, it seems pretty damn even. It's very hard for me, pre-matchup, to have any kind of prediction for a Game 3. I really don't know. I could totally see it going either way. They both look good. It's not one of those sets where somebody dominates Game 1, better player, better team. That same somebody barely loses Game 2, even though the luck was overwhelmingly on the other side, and it felt like they should have won 2-0. It's easy in those to just go, all right, that guy's going to win Game 3. He's just looked better all set. But this is not one of those. I truly don't know. This one really could go either way. It's certainly, the matchup is obviously going to be a factor, but yeah, I don't have a prediction for you. I mean, of note, because Leech is probably just going to default back to some stupid stall team. You got crushed in the game where you did stall. You won the game where you brought something more aggressive. This isn't so much a prediction. I guess it's advice or just a little bit of chit-chat. But if I were Leech going into this Game 3, I would not bring a stall team. I would bring something aggressive. Whatever that looks like, whether it's an aggressive balance or something similar to this again, or a CM spam or whatever. But I would not bring a stall team. It's what Rob's expecting, and it's the lazy, obvious play. It's the default to comfort for Leech. And I don't know that you should default to comfort in Game 3. My guess is that Leech brings something stally, and that Rob brings something sturdy that is good against stally, and perhaps Rob has the matchup advantage, but yeah, if I'm Leech, I would not bring a stall team. Keep it aggressive. And then I guess for Rob, it really depends on how much faith, how much credit you want to give Leech. Maybe I'm not giving him enough, but my guess is that Leech simply defaults to comfort and brings something stally. And I'll be the first to admit, when we see it together in a moment, if I'm wrong, I'll give Leech the credit. Bigger testicles than I gave him credit for, perhaps. Or he'll just bring stall. And it'll be obvious, and Rob will have a good matchup. Either or. Like I said, like I had mentioned earlier in the video, Leech known for taking too much time in between games. I quite literally almost implemented a rule for the main event, very much with Leech in mind, where I put some kind of cap on how long you can take in between games, whether it's 5 minutes, 7 minutes, certainly wouldn't be more than 10 minutes, and even then that feels pretty damn excessive. I mean, 10 minutes is a lot of time. I don't feel like you should be going and making a snack, waiting for it to cook, bringing it back, eating half of it, walking your dog. That's not all shit you do in between games. Got to be courteous to your opponent's time, courteous to your narrator's time, and just get the damn set done. But yeah, some people really struggle with nerves and anxiety and whatever thing along those lines, and they got to do whatever it is they got to do to shake off the nerves and refocus for Game 3. We will switch sides for continuity in this decisive Game 3. Leech for the third and final time on the bottom. Rob Jr., third and final time on the top. Winner gets a bye next round. Loser down to the lower bracket, but not eliminated. We begin with standard leads in Meta and Tar, respectively. Does the mash, the monster mash, connects with Skarm. Spikes come down, and he gets magnetoned. And Leech may have brought an offense rather than defaulting to stall. Once that is confirmed, I will go ahead and apologize and give him the credit that he's due. And I think that he will be well served if, in fact, that's what he did. I think bringing an aggressive team is the right call for Leech, and that's not revisionist history. I just said that a couple moments ago before the match began. I think Leech will thank himself for making this call if it is, in fact, an aggressive team, as it appears that it might be. Does he have a Doug follow-up here? Are we looking at double Trapper? We are not. So he gets a T-Bolt off, and the T-Tar does have lefties. So we can rule out Lumberry. And here comes Meta. Meteor Mash, swing and a miss. Missed more in this game when it's not paralyzed than the previous Meta. That was on point. Back to T-Tar, clearly anticipating either a switch or a boom. But it's neither. It's actually Toxic, which is also going to miss. And now it's Coon again. This Meteor Mash going to connect. Standard Mash, no miss, no raise. And we wait. Pretty good pace in the opener of this one, but as we know, these players are prone towards the pause. It's just been that kind of set. Both going to stay in. Surf and Toxic, and that is the second Toxic miss and a Mash miss. So in the early goings of this game, Leech has missed 3 85-15s. I hope that he doesn't let it tilt him, because none of them, other than maybe the Toxic on the Tar, have been all that major. So not a huge deal. Get your bad luck out now and get your good luck later in the battle when it matters more. But Leech has had a few aggravating misses in the early goings of this one. A little bit of timer being used. Celebi having just come in for the first time. We don't know what his deal is. Leech Seed, a pretty standard play here, but could go for Giga Drain. Love Rob Jr. for bringing Regice Philbin for a second time in the set. Much appreciated. Didn't work out the first time, but Regice never loses twice in a row. It's actually never happened in the history of Pokemon. So, having seen this Regice, unless Leech has one too, I now declare that Rob Jr. will achieve victory in this game. This might be not too dissimilar for Rob from the previous. It easily could just be like Claydol, Dougie, or Claydol and some other boom poke in the back trying to spike down, or sorry, boom down to the Suicune here. Regice gets in on Celebi, which is a heavily Regice favored matchup. Celebi can't even like stay in Leech Seed here. He would just get clocked by the Stab Ice Beam from a pretty hard-hitting Regice. And the luck is continuing to spiral downward for Leech with an insta-freeze as Swampert comes in. Doesn't thaw, eats an Ice Beam. One more chance to thaw, I guess, but what are you even going to do if you thaw? We'll never know. Down that goes. Not going the way that Leech envisioned in this third game. Rob clearly ahead, and Rob clearly on the better end of the RNG so far in this game, with 3 misses and an insta-freeze and no thaw happening for Leech. Had a chance there to crit the Coon, which would have killed him, but no such luck. Celebi comes into a Surf, not a big deal. Celebi has shown only Giga Drain so far. Doesn't tell us a whole heck of a lot. And he very well may click Giga Drain here. If he's got Recover, which sometimes with Giga Drain they don't, but if he's got Recover, now would be the time. Regice comes in, makes sense, and sure seems like he doesn't have Recover. This looks a lot like the Fredazi set. Leech Seed, Giga, HP Fire, Psychic with some amount of bulk, but nevertheless lacking in Recover. See if Regice actually does stay in here. You can Ice Beam, but you don't want to Ice Beam into the meta, especially while you're seated. Rob might switch. And he does. back to the Suicune. So if Leech had been able to anticipate that and click Giga Drain, it would have not only killed the Suicune, but it would have healed the Celebi a bit as well. So perhaps a missed opportunity there for Leech. Probably frustrated with the way that this game has gone and with how far behind he is. Unable to click Giga and make the prediction there. Had he clicked Giga Drain, would have been a pretty good play, and we'd actually be looking at a 2-2 game with a relatively healthy Celebi. So hard play to make, perhaps, but also perhaps a missed opportunity there for Leech. I think the game looks very different had he stayed in and clicked Giga Drain there. But not a prediction that he's able to make. And we end up with meta on Suicune yet again. We know that the Suicune is faster here. Is it shown Roar? Just Surf. So it's interesting too because Roar could be a factor if Celebi were to come in on a spike right now. Rob locked in his move and it might just be Surf, but Leech taking a minute and change to figure out what he wants to do. Meta not super healthy. This actually looks remarkably similar. Is he reusing the previous team? Is it Gyra in the back? Is he loading up the same team twice? That would be interesting if so. Rob's got to be thinking that it's Gyra based on everything else being the same, if I'm not mistaken. Let me very briefly peek over there to make sure. Yeah. Same dudes. So I wonder if it's the exact same team, or if Leech has pulled a little trickery and it's now Salamence or something to that effect, but Leech has seemingly loaded the same team that he just won with. And Rob probably picked up on that and noticed that at the same time that I did. Ugh. Meta, you say? Yeah, it could be Meta Doll in the back. That makes sense. Double Rock Resist, double Boom. Kind of awkward if you're a Leech fan here. Meta's kind of an issue. What switches in? I mean, own Meta would die to EQ or just get outsped even if it does come in on MASH. Lax doesn't eat MASH here. Celebi doesn't want to come in on MASH here. Better hope that it's Last Poke Gyra rather than Last Poke Salamence, because Mence would be in some big trouble too. Might need Gyra with his MASH resist thanks to his water typing. Or Leech is going to have to rely on Meteor Mash missing, which is never where you want to be, but sometimes that's where you are. On paper, it's 4-4, but it feels like Rob is heavily favored here. Agility is interesting. Yeah, high risk, high reward. I mean, had Meta gotten body slam parried there, or gotten crit by that boom, he would feel like a donk-a-donk, but as it stands, the agility gets off successfully, and Leech does manage to avoid the critical hit or the flinch, which would have effectively ended the match. And he did load up the same team that he brought last game. Not the biggest reusing within the same set fan myself, but we'll see if it works out for him. 3-3 situation, but all three for Leech are relatively banged up. Cheetar here will always live a non-crit Earthquake. Could miss Rock Slide, though, for the retaliation, so Leech does have some chances here. He could crit him, he could dodge, he could switch to Meta on Rock Slide, but I don't know if Meta's faster than Tar. The fact that it's Toxic Meta kind of makes me think it probably doesn't have that much speed investment. Might be a bulkier, like, Toxic Protect kind of set. And we wait. Once again, Rob is already locked in, and he's probably just clicking Rock Slide here. So it falls to Leech on how to respond to that. doesn't really have a fantastic response. Switch to meta or try to dodge. What we're looking at here. Neither option feels fantastic. Leech trying to figure out the best of bad choices here. Gonna go for the attack. Alrighty. He fishes for crit or for dodge. Two different ways to get out of this. But neither one comes, and that leaves him with only the meta and the Celebi against the weakened T-Tar. The relatively healthy Regice at 75%. And an unknown last Pokemon that I think is either going to be Claydol or Gengar. But I lean pretty heavily, given the amount of grounded pokes and the Suicune and all that good stuff. I lean towards it being a Claydol in this case. Possibly a fast Claydol. The Claydol actually could be an issue here because it can presumably outspeed and kill the meta. And it can eat a Giga Drain and then blow up on the Celebi. So if it is Claydol in the back, even though it's not exactly the world's most offensive poke, not exactly a sweeper, in this situation, Claydol could close out the game for Rob if that's what it is. Leech down to just a minute as he goes over every option, now down to 30 seconds in fact. Time is of the essence. And the timer's there for a reason. It's not just for show. As with most other tournaments, if he were to time out, it would be a loss and the result would stand. Meta is faster, but Mash misses yet again. Uber frustrating game for Leech. Feels like little to nothing went his way. Celebi can outspeed and kill here, but I don't see how that gets him out of it against the other pokes. I don't know what he could do to stop Regice here. Crit HP Fire wouldn't even kill, and Regice is never going to miss, so there's just no way out. And Ice Beam, even through the CM, is going to be good enough with the sand in the back. That is going to be the game, set, and match. Regice Philbin never loses twice in a row, and Rob is going to take this one down and earn himself that sweet round 3 bye, while Leech is going to have to go downstairs to the lower bracket and fight for his tournament life. It doesn't get revealed. I'll ask in the chat after the video. I suspect it was last doll for Rob, but perhaps we'll never know. The result is 2-1 Rob Jr. over Pkleech. Rob gets a bye. Leech goes to the lower bracket. And CI7 rages on. If you guys are able to financially contribute to the tournament, and I emphasize to the tournament, not to me, I don't keep any of the money, please feel free to check out the donation link in the Discord server. It's via PayPal. It is fast. It is secure. The money goes straight into the prize pool, and it gets us closer to our goal of beating last year's record, which would require us to raise $2,600. We're at just shy of 2,000 at this moment. That is an achievable goal. Let me know if you can help. It would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Click the like button if you enjoyed. Consider subscribing if you want to never miss one of these CALLOUS Invitational videos. And I will see you in the next battle.